What's going on, beautiful people? So yesterday I posted the latest video of it, not yesterday as you're seeing it, but yesterday from now. I posted the last video of the self-sustaining tank here. Now in that video, I asked you the question, should I do a water change? The murkiness is annoying me. I'm happy to go on if you guys want to, but if you say we can change, we can change. And I've had some thoughts. A lot of people didn't want me to, and they're saying just leave it. Now leaving the tank would not be detrimental to it at all. There is nothing wrong with the water quality, it's just got a haze to it. Some people are saying just keep leaving it and in time it will go. It's a bacterial bloom and it balances out over time. But this is 100% not a bacterial bloom. It is definitely the tannins in the water. Now they do not go over time, they're just in the water. As we top up the tank, all it does is stay in the water. You're not diluting it in any way. The only way to get it out is to take it out, either by water change or some other measure. And I've thought of some other measure that I don't feel like breaks the rules of the tank. Rules put in place by myself, of course. So the tank has now been running a best part of the month, and the TDS is reading 135. It's about 100 out of the tap. So yeah, it's gently rising, which is as you'd expect because we're putting minerals into it and they're not coming out. Yeah, the auto top-up system is from tap water. Now, I would expect the TDS to go up, but it probably would have gone up even more if not for the fact that we've had floating plants have been removed. And as time goes by and all the stem plants and everything get too big for the tank and we've already done our replanting, again, you're trimming minerals and everything like that. You're basically trimming them and pulling them out. So the TDS will stabilize at a level. I mean, it has done in all the other tanks I've ever done, and all I've ever done is top them up with tap water. Now, if you're starting off with an incredibly high TDS, you're going to again see it creep up. Now TDS doesn't necessarily always mean bad. We don't know what the total breakdown is of the total dissolved solids, do we? We're just taking an arbitrary number and just watching it go up and down. I've seen plenty of tanks where people have got high TDS and do really well. Seems to be a huge amount of emphasis on it. And yes, I will agree, if you're topping up continuously with water and you're not removing anything from the tank, it probably will just continue to rise without any water changes. A big water change should set it back to where it is at the tap or somewhere there in between because you're diluting the water effectively. But I don't want to do that on this tank. I just want to keep it in there and not change the water. So how can we get around that? Where's my box of tricks? Haha, secret weapon. So I have got an internal filter that's stuck down. We've got some crystal clear, which is basically, it's like activated carbon, it's got some zeolite and things like that in it. I'll bag that up, stick that in there, run it for like a few days, and it should clear everything. So now I can just place the filter in the side here. I think I'll slide it around a little bit to the back so it's not so in your face. And then I can just plug it in. Seems pretty good. There's a fair amount of flow there. You can see, I mean, it's not affecting the fish. They'll be absolutely fine. It's blowing the plants in this corner a little bit, but nothing too bad. I mean, we need a certain amount of turnover in the water to be able to actually clean it. So yeah, that's a good amount of carbon in there, packed full, and a fast turnover. Now I'm going away for a few days over the weekend with my family for a little trip. Now, hopefully when I come back, this is going to be clear, fingers crossed. And if it is, we can remove it. We don't need to keep it in there. And it's just something I can stick in as and when needed. But hopefully once these tannins are gone, it shouldn't come back. And if it does, it'll be like a very, very slow, gradual thing. Well, I'm back from my break with the family. It's day 33, so it's been about 4 days since I left. Voila. Hey? It's clean. It's proper clear. Looks like a completely different tank. And guess what? Still no water change. Didn't do it. Just plugged that in, the little filter before I left, and I've come back and it's like this. I'm so glad it worked. But there's no need now to keep it in. I didn't want to keep it running in there. I know it's not hurting, but eventually it will need cleaning out. Don't want to have to do that. So it was just put in as a measure to get it clear. Take it out now, and we can see then as well if it does stay clear. Have I removed all the tannins that were able to come out of that wood, or will I still need to put it in another time? Oh, that's awesome though. This will now be known as my tannin remover device. Now everything's locked in, so it shouldn't like come out as I take it out. I'll be quick though. There we go. Little bit of gunk, but nothing major. All the auto top off's gone off because obviously I've removed a volume from the tank, so that's topping up. Interesting to see where that's sitting. How are we doing for water? Still loads left. I mean, well, halfway down, but ages ago I actually filled that up, so it's going so well. And it's just past lunchtime, and I heard the old fertilizer dripping in. So that's been working well as well. Everything's running so smooth. Even the glass is looking really clear as well. I don't know if you can tell, but there's like the tiniest little amount on it. And if you look, there's these little specks. And what are they? They are baby snails. This is why I say to you guys, snails are so important. They just keep everything great. Ram's horn snails breed fast. And if there's enough food for the young, they'll all grow up. And by food, I mean like waste material and algae. Well, there's not a lot of waste material because the Amanos have cleared everything on the substrate now, but there was this algae on the glass, which these guys are feasting on and getting bigger and bigger. And that's perfect. It'll find its own little equilibrium and we'll have just the right amount of snails for background algae. Oh, what a win. Okay, so it might be interesting now that we've like taken that out and taken out the cloudiness to see the TDS, see if it's affected anything. So my tap water's 100, remember? Last reading was like 130 something, was it? Yeah, I think. It's now reading 142, so it's up slightly. To be honest, I expect that's the dusting in the carbon and things like that going into the water. So it hasn't removed anything, but that's fine. I mean, that number is way below what would be considered too much. I mean, people, like I say, people have said to me they've had 1,000 TDS before, and perfectly grown plants, so that's all good for me. And I just want to make it absolutely clear, I am not one of those people that's like, no, water changes aren't needed. I am very much, if a water change is needed, then do a water change. But I didn't want to do it on this just for the sake of it, and I've showed that I didn't need to. A lot of people thinking the murkiness might have been from like bacteria blooms and that, but clearly it was just the tannins because it wouldn't have done this otherwise. Obviously, like with my experience now, I can see the difference between a bacterial bloom and the tannins in the water because it wasn't so harsh that it looked completely brown, but it was enough for me to see that, yeah, that's definitely tannin. So the right call, we've cleaned up the water. TDS is still sitting at a really good number as well. Still not added any water to the tank and also not cleaned it at all, not changed any water. So yeah, the experiment continues. 33 days, nothing really done, I'd say. We had a little trim up session for a few minutes and then spent a few minutes just putting together that filter and putting it in. Brilliant. I have noticed though that some of the limnophila that we replanted has broken off there, and also down the bottom. There's one that looks strangely upside down. Now, either I planted it upside down or it's come loose and has just sort of tried to float up. So we'll put that back in. And also, the stuff from before is hitting the surface again. I think the Walichi needs a trim, if I'm honest, because that's reaching the surface as well. So a couple of trims on those and some replants in this corner. I think I'll add a nice little section over there that's like bushier than the rest and sort of tapers off. Eventually it's going to be green all down here as well, but yeah, look at this, look at the plants down here. The Halanthian tenellum now is really taking over. Look at these runners, they're just all in the foreground as well, filling in all the gaps. That's exactly what we want to see. I just want it to be a whole complete grassy sort of carpet, to be honest, that I don't have to maintain. It's not like, well, if you look at the pearlweed tank next to it, I have to trim that so often, whereas this one I'll never have to trim, if I don't want to, that is. So we are now on day 44. Not a lot has happened in the tank since the last clips I showed you, but I've come in this morning and I've noticed something really cool. As you can see here, just under this leaf, we have got a baby black molly. And you know how these things work. If there's one baby, there has to be more. Surely there's more. Now, truth be told, I did notice a few babies a few days ago now, just as I was leaving, and I thought, oh, I'll get that on video tomorrow. I came in the morning and I could not see any of them at all, but this has to be from that group because I doubt very much the mum's given birth since then, and it looks a little bit bigger than the ones I originally saw, probably about double the size now in just a few days. Actually, no, it's about 4 or 5 days, so that would make sense. Now, on that day where I did see the babies, there was a lot. There had to be like 20 to 30 babies I saw. There was loads all swimming around in this area, and I saw a load over in this area as well, like 2 different groups. And then the next day in the morning, I could not see any of them. So either a lot of them got picked off, maybe by their own parents. I'm not sure if they do that. It would make sense as to why I don't see a lot of babies in this tank next door as well, which I've recently trimmed, so it's looking a little bit rough, but yeah. I mean, it's good that only the strongest or smartest will survive, because otherwise this tank would just be overrun with black mollies. And it could well be that the reason I didn't see any the next day is because the ones that stayed out in the open, they got eaten. The smart ones that stayed right down low, like you just saw, they can potentially survive. There's another one, or it might even be the same one. Hopefully there's more than one though. I would like a good few. Where are you going, little buddy? Stay down there. It's another reason though why carpeting plants are so good, because babies can get right down there, like this little baby swordtail, and they stay there until they're big enough, and then they can come out in the open and not get obliterated by the adults. So yeah, that's really nice to see, because I do want more fish in this tank now, and the ones I've got planned, I think we're ready to put them in. But in fact, we wasn't ready, because after I made that clip, I realized I was late. We're supposed to be going on holiday, so I had to stop everything and leave. But now I'm back a week later. Everything is still good, but there's a slight haze to the water, and I think that's because when I put the bristle, did I tell you guys I put one bristle nose in here? There he is at the back. I put him in when I changed out the 8-foot, you can see in the background there. And sometimes he goes around and does a little bit of under rock digging and it kicks up some dust. Now, because we haven't got a filter, it takes quite a while for all that dust to settle. By the time it has, he tends to kick it up again, but it's not a problem. We're not seeing any of the sort of tannins in the water. That's the main thing I didn't want, but a little bit of haze every now and again from the bristlenose enjoying himself, not a problem. Oh, there we go, look, you can see we've still got our baby as well. I think that's the same one. It might not be, there might be several. I mean, it's more than likely there are several. But anyway, it's time to add in a feature fish to the tank, or a schooling fish actually. Oh, I just walked into the ladder. So this tank here is currently a holding tank for a lot of fish that are going to be going in the 8-foot. All of the big fish you can see there, they're all going in there soon once we've got a bit more growth in there. But behind them you can see we have got an absolute ton of cardinals, and there's some neons in with them as well. I just kept them together because it just felt right. Now I need to catch all of these out, which is going to be quite difficult. There's a lot of plants in there. There's a lot of floating plants. I've got to get those out first or there is no chance. I mean, the whole surface is taken up with mini water lettuce and red root floaters, but they will not be wasted. I will bag them up and take them to the shop so you guys can buy them if you're near Maidenhead Aquatics Taunton. They do them for a really good price as well, and nice big bags. There we go. Loads cleared off the surface. We can see properly now. There is a lot of cardinals. They're going to look great in that tank. That is, of course, the tank they were originally in with the red devil angelfish that you can see here, but they're going to be going in the 8-foot with the other angels we got in here as well. And I'm going to be using all of this Vallisneria for another tank coming soon, which involves the Congo puffers that many of you would have seen in a previous video where I went back to Maidenhead Aquatics. Martin is saving them for me and I can't wait to build that. But for now, I've got to get out all these cardinals. It's not going to be easy, but I'll try my best. Well, it actually went a lot smoother than I thought. There are a couple left back there. It's about 4 or 5, I reckon, but they're very difficult to catch. I'm just going to wait till they've relaxed a bit more. They seem to be the more intelligent of the group. And every time I put the net in now, they just hide. So I'm going to wait till they're more relaxed, maybe put some food in. I'll get them at a later date. I used the double net method. So I took one net from one side, herded them into one area, then used 2 nets to scoop them all up. I didn't get it in one go, don't get me wrong. It took about 5 or 6 scoops. Got a good collection there though. Let's get them in there. Let's get them back in the tank they're originally in. Chunks is very interested. What on earth is going on here? Don't worry, buddy. It's not concerning you. Right then, let's get these bad boys in. Now with neons, you do tend to get a few that pretend to be sleepy for a minute. It's kind of like a shock thing. Oh, that looks good. I knew they'd look good in this tank. Something about them popping against a mostly green. They're all behaving very nicely. Yes, we're all good. Do you know what I mean though? Sometimes you get some of the neons, they'll float to the bottom and just pretend that they're unconscious, and then like in 2 seconds, they're fine. I've had that before. A little bit of crud in the water there, but that'll settle down. Most of them currently in that corner. They go on the back. Oh yeah, look at the Ludwigia plustrius. As it all grows closer to the light now, we're getting more and more red. It's compact. It's really nicely compact actually, more than I would expect. But I guess it's because it's got enough lighting. You tend to get leggy plants when you haven't got a higher lighting because the plants reach for the light. But that's staying really nicely compact. And you can see the Rotala HR is now getting red tips to it. So the closer that grows to the light now, the better it's going to get. And that goes all around the way around the back. So the idea was, that this whole tank would have like mostly green everywhere, and then there's just nice red section at the back there. And it's not going to be long before we're seeing that even better. And I should probably point out, it is day 55, and up until this point, I've not really fed the tank at all because I was happy with all the fish that are in there just grazing, and they have been doing that. Yeah, as you can see, the mollies are nice and big, but now we've got all those fish in, it's time to start feeding the tank, and this is self-sustaining, which means what? Tech. We can use tech. And so I have got this little contraption here from Superfish, Aqua Feeder. I don't know how it works. I've never used one before, but you know, I'm sure I can work it out. So what have we got here? The contraption, a little thingy for sticking it to the glass, and I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that would be for. You guys know I never read instructions, but with stuff I've never used before, I think I should. Right, it's all pretty self-explanatory. Put the batteries in, set your time, set when you want it to feed, how many rotations. I'm just going with one, keeping it simple at midday. And then you load up the barrel with the food that you want to, feed the fish. I'm going with a flake. They're small fish, so small pieces of flake. I've crumbled it up nicely as well. But then you want to test to make sure you've got the right opening. So there's a little button here that says manual, and you can just press it, and it goes round. The flap opens, and that is how much I've fed there. Now with that amount of fish, that's not nearly enough for one feeding a day. So I can open up the gap and try again. Just got to open this slider. Right, there we go. I put it on maximum opening, which I think will work well for this kind of flake. But obviously every food's going to be different. Riveting stuff. Yeah, that's a lot better. But I think I need to do that about 3 times a day, I reckon, for the amount of fish we've got in there. Should be perfect, so I can reset it all to do that. Right, there we go. I've got it set up. I just did a little test just for the amount coming out. I'm going to do it again, press manual. We're turning. You can see the amount that comes out. There we go. So I've got it set to do that at 12, 1 and 2, and that'll be more than enough food. At the moment, the cardinals and neons have got no idea what is going on with that. They're used to my tap. Here we go, tap. Look, there's food in the water, guys. They're a little bit stressed out probably just from the move, but they'll get used to it very quickly. Mollies though, look, mollies are all over it. Some of them are coming forward a little bit more now. Yeah, you know this, yeah, munch. Here we go, look, now we're getting some movement. They're understanding the assignment. And although the food is dumped on the top surface of the water, we've got the agitation coming from the surface skimmer behind it, which eventually is just going to sort of pulverize it and put it into the water column for any fish that aren't sort of brave enough to come to the surface. But they're getting it now, look. We've got a lot more going on. Now, usually I just feed about once a day, once every other day, and just sort of sprinkle a little bit on the top. So must remember not to do that to this tank because they're already going to be getting more than enough food. Now, I don't know how you guys are feeling, but for me, this has definitely been a massive success. 55 days, and I've probably done a total of, I'd say, half an hour's worth of maintenance in that time. I mean, that's nearly 2 months, half an hour of doing things. I mean, and that's, adding a little bit extra. All I've really done is scoop out some plants at the top. What else did I do? I actually can't even think of anything else I've done. Obviously, putting the tech and stuff on takes time as well, but that's more like fun stuff, isn't it? Especially in the first 2 months. You want to be doing things to your aquarium because not everyone's got 50 tanks dotted around and it's all going to be focused on that main sort of showpiece in your living room or dining room or office or wherever you got it. But yeah, the point of me doing this was to show people that you don't have to just sit there and do tons of things and cleaning your tank and stuff like that. You can just have something beautiful and do barely anything to it because, let's face it, the most enjoyment in the hobby is the creation process, first of all, like building the tank, and then putting the fish in, and then sitting back and watching it sort of evolve as time goes by. And that's definitely what this tank's done. I mean, it looks like night and day now compared to when we started. So here we are on day 1, and it's surprising looking back just how much it's actually changed. The plants in the foreground have almost completely taken over in comparison. As you can see, every single plant has grown way more than when it was first planted. Particularly loving that Ludwigia palustrous red poking over the top. That's only going to get stronger and stronger as well. But the main surprising thing for me is how well the ferns are doing. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting them to mostly die off and then regrow back, but that's not been the case. Bulbitis looks the healthiest I've ever seen in any tank. Well, any of my tanks, that is. I mean, especially considering there's no CO2. We're not changing any water, but we have got that good lighting though. Anyway, that's it for this one. In future videos, we're going to be adding a feature fish as well, so make sure that you are subbed and everything, and I'll see you on the next one.